Welcome to the Evolution of Bold podcast, where we celebrate the power of women and their journey to greatness. I'm your host, Vaneese Johnson, also known as the Boldness Coach. I'm excited to take you on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation. Whether you're just starting out or well into your journey, I'm here to guide you through the challenges, help you find your purpose, and to help you let go of anything that's holding you back. So take a deep breath, relax, and get ready to dive into some juicy topics that will inspire and empower you to find your level of bold and evolve into the best version of yourself. But before we get started, let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you can join a community of bold women who are transforming their lives. Make sure that you hit that notification button so that as new shows are released, that you get notified. And also connect with us on social media. We want to hear your journey. We want to celebrate you on the journey. We want to support you on the journey. And also, when you share, you inspire other women in the community to share their journey as well. So now that we got the housekeeping out of the way, let's get into the juicy topic of today. Welcome to this episode of the Evolution of Bold podcast show. On today's topic, I'm getting personal. And I'm going to share with you 4 important areas that I think you need to know about me and how life set me up. I want to make sure that I'm bringing some vulnerability and transparency in our conversations. And I think the best way to be able to do that is to tell you some inside stuff about me that you may not know. And I also want to connect with you a little deeper so that you can see that I am just like you. I'm a woman who is intentionally on a journey in her life to really become her highest self and to discover, what that really looks and feels like. And so this is my way of inviting you, to the journey, a little bit deeper in the evolution of your own level of bold. So now that you hear that backstory, let's get into some juiciness. So the 4 areas that I want to share with you about myself is who am I? Where did I begin? What's important to me? And what I'm doing about what's important to me. So let's start from who I am. I am a child of the Most High. Yes. And I'm so excited to be able to share that and say that. Some people call the Most High God, some people call the Most High Source, whatever and however you identify with that level of energy and realness and spirituality in your life, then you hang on to that. I'm going to hang on to this. I'm also an open, trusting, and powerful woman who embraces her unique strengths and helps other women to do the same. And I'll be telling you and sharing with you through different aspects, and topics on the show about, those specific areas of being open, trusting, and powerful. So I didn't forget about them, but just stay tuned. They're going to come up and reveal a little deeper in future episodes. I'm a mother. I have an adult son. I know that because I know that's hard to believe because I look every bit of 25. But yes, I have an adult son. I am a daughter, a sister, and a lover of life. I'm also a seasoned businesswoman. When I say seasoned, I have been in business now almost 30 years, full time. I will be also sharing different levels and aspects of that and on certain future podcast shows as well. But just so that you kind of have a general sense of who am I. Now, where did I begin? Where did I come from, y'all? Okay, I'm gonna warn you before I get any deeper into this that part of my vernacular is about to change. Look, it just happened a few seconds ago because I'm about to share with you that I'm a Southern girl. I was born and raised in Louisiana, in a little town in the corner of the boot called Bastrop, Bastrop, Louisiana. So I was born in an area that we call the Arklamis. So that's where Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas all connect in the top corner of the boot. So I was born and I was raised there. I lived there until I was 17. and I left home 2 weeks after I graduated from high school. I had an invitation to go to college, but I was like, I'm out of here. Y'all know what it's like when you've been growing up in your mama's house and you like, I can't wait to get grown. I can't wait till I turn 18 so I can get out of here. So back in the day, when you hit 18, you was grown, right? Today, a whole different topic, for another podcast show. So I left home 2 weeks after I graduated from high school and I moved to Southern California. And that's really the second part of my life where Southern California really invited me to step into young womanhood. The first part of my life in being in Louisiana, I want to take a step back for a second. The first part of my life and growing up and being raised in Louisiana really gave me a set of foundational life skills and character development that would be important even at this point in my life. In that environment, growing up in the South, I had some really strong, resilient women in my life. I had the opportunity and the blessing to be able to meet and have a relationship with my great great grandmother, even though she was bedridden, by the time I was really aware of the significance of that relationship. But I got a chance to have a relationship with her nonetheless. And I remember brushing her hair, and her hair was this pretty gray, but it was like a blue silver gray, and I had seen nothing like it before. Um, and come to learn, I think my great great grandmother had some kind of Indian in her. And so, but I had a chance to have that relationship. I also had a chance to have a relationship with my great grandmother. And so that was really interesting because my great grandmother was a woman who really was resilient and knew how to make $1 out of 15 cents because she really taught me about stretching, resources. And I learned from her canning, how to can preserves and how to store food for different, when you're in a season, but you would want that food at another season, when it wasn't growing and available. So she taught me that. And then also my grandmother. And so my grandmother was definitely a strong personality, but she also had a certain charisma about her where when she walked into a room, there were no strangers. And she just had this really interesting personality and character about her. So that helped me to really see how, your personality and character can influence, people in the room or people around you. And of course, there's my mother, who I really learned some life skills, and homemaking skills from. So each one of those women in my life really helped me again to develop the foundational skills and to develop the character, in me as a woman so that I could be able to use, that foundation, at a different part of my life and perhaps all through my life at different aspects. So I'm bringing that up and giving you the depth of that because I want you to have some, to get into retrospection and reflection and really think about the influences that really helped you to develop the skills that you've been leveraging at different points on your journey and maybe even now, right? And to think about those individuals who influenced you on your journey. And good, bad, or indifferent, there's something that you learned, along the way. The last component that I will close that out with as I move on to the other areas of my life is that I am the first generation in my family to not have to touch cotton other than the clothing that cotton is made from. So my great great grandmother, my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother all touched cotton. The first three ladies, they actually worked in cotton fields, and my mom worked at a cotton gin, for a short period. And so I am the first. So I also want you to think about from a generational, standpoint in your life, where do you sit on the lineage, of women, that you have been exposed to in your life. And it allows me to have a greater appreciation for the way life set me up. Because sometimes we think life happens to us, but it's really happening for us. And the formative years helped to set me up for who I am today and being here and having this conversation with you. So just think about, that question, right? Who influenced you? How did life set you up in your formative years to be able to have achieved and to be in the space of achieving where you are right now? So back to the second phase of my life, when I relocated to California, I moved to South Central Los Angeles. Let me tell you, talking about a fish out of water and a culture shock like I had never seen before. Some of y'all that relocated from your kind of nucleus of safety, from where you were reared, and you kind of landed, in this other realm of life for you. um, it may have been a culture shock, even if you were off to college, but certainly if you were even if you went in the military, and certainly if you relocated to another city altogether, right? Leaving home is just a culture shock, at best, right? So I lived in Southern California for a while. And when I was 19, I got my first apartment. And I didn't know how to manage a household at all because I grew up in households that were managed, by other women. So in that aspect of my life, I had to figure it out. And that was a moment in time in my life on my journey where I learned and developed the skill of figuring it out. And that would serve me immensely when I stepped into the role of being an entrepreneur. So, as I lived in Southern California and navigated the culture and stepped into my young womanhood, and where I really started to create my own values, from the belief systems and the value systems that had been entrenched to me, in the formative years, right? And I would build on those and use those up until a particular point. And I'm going to get to that in a future show. But I want you to think about for a moment, what were some of those values, or maybe even are some of those values and belief systems that you were able to take from your formative years and you were able to use them perhaps at the point of crossing over into the next level of your womanhood to really help you to set some of those foundations that you operated from in that time, or maybe even operating from now, right? So that was a really important time. Then I moved from Southern California up to Northern California, and I moved up here to have a change of life. But this was also the opportunity that I moved up here, unbeknownst to me, to become a mother. And so when I moved up here in my early 20s, I became a mother by the age of 25. And that opened up my life in a really magical way, because in my life for the first time, I had an opportunity to really impart, you know, um, to this being that I was in charge of, to impart, the knowledge, the skills that I had learned in those formative years. And I stepped into mothering. And some of you know what I'm talking about if you have your own children, whether they are biological, whether they are adopted, whether you adopted them or they adopted you, or whether you have taken on the role of mothering in any aspect of your life. You know what it's like to have something to be more responsible for that's bigger than you. And that really catapulted me into dreaming a bigger dream for myself so that I could be able to give my son the opportunity to have a bigger dream, in his life. And as I moved through the journey of mothering, The next thing that I got a chance to birth was to become a businesswoman. And let me tell y'all this. I had no idea about entrepreneurship. I had no formal training. I had no formal education. What I did know, this may make some of y'all laugh, or you might even appreciate it. I knew how to add, subtract, divide, and multiply. I hated fractions. I hated percents, but I knew how to do math. And I felt like this, if I can use my math skills and use my intelligence of understanding, my street smarts, my common sense, that somehow I could figure this out. And to remember that I had, in around 19 when I got my first apartment, I knew I could figure it out. Right. And so that's what I brought to the role, of entrepreneurship at the age of 27. So I had my son at 25 and I started my first business at the age of 27. And that really, oh my goodness, that really commanded a whole deeper level of womanhood that I could have ever imagined in my entire life. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to share other aspects of that with you on future episodes. And so, but in the journey of entrepreneurship, and I mentioned, that I've been in business almost 30 years, what it has allowed me to do is to really get to know who I am because of the circumstances that were born out of being in that area, that career path, in my life. And it really, pulled forth in me um, the requirement to develop spirituality, the requirement to get clear about religion and how that plays a factor, in becoming your best and highest self. It pulled forth about me going introspective, in myself to really get clear about, who am I? It also challenged me with, developing my intelligence and really learning how to maximize my intellect. And it's like a school of learning that I've never been in before. And I want to just kind of put a pin in this for a second, because, a lot of you listening to, this podcast and watching the show, you may not be an entrepreneur, and that's completely okay. But what I invite you to do is to really look at and be in reflection of a pivotal moment, in a career move or even in a job, right? That kind of springboarded you into a career area where it called forth in you things that you probably didn't know, or character, character traits, skill sets that you didn't even know you could develop. But it called forth in you something deeper and higher about yourself that you probably were just so surprised, like, wow, look at what I can do. And that's what entrepreneurship did for me. It kind of really brought me to the culmination of all of the other things, the skill sets and character traits, the values, the behaviors, that I had brought with me and fine-tuned and learned, along this journey of life up until a particular point. And now, where am I in life? Is that I'm here as the Boldness Coach. I'm going to introduce to you in the next episode how I became the Boldness Coach. Baby, let me just tell you this part. I didn't wake up and say, please sign me up for that. So, but again, I'll tell you that in the next episode. So now where I am in my life as I reside in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area. And this is a really incredible place for me. I've been searching in my soul, is there any place else in the world that I want to live? And the answer for me at this moment is no, because it's a perfect environment for me. My home is perfect for me. The city that I live in, the community that I get to engage with and around. the spiritual energy that comes up in me and that's supported in me by the nature that's around me. So this is a really perfect place for me at this moment and journey in my life. So now that you know where I began and how life set me up, I'm going to move you to the next important area is what's important to me. There are three areas in my life that are really important to me. The first is my personal mission. My personal mission. This is what drives me. This is what I lean on and lean into every day. My personal mission is to live a life that is bold, big, and bad. And that's more than a nice phrase or, kind of what I want to say, like a tagline. There's depth and meaning into each one of those words. And I'm going to go deeper into that in the next episode. But I think about boldness as really owning who I am and the originality and the uniqueness. Think about big. And look, y'all can see my ruffles. For those of you that are listening audio, I have this shirt on with ruffles on, right? But the bigness is about, an overview of this is, and part of it is the essence of who I am, not only just in personality, but also in skills and how I use them. And then being bad, that has an essence, an energy of audaciousness to it. So that is my personal mission in life. Every day, I live my life from different aspects of being bold, big, and bad. And sometimes it's all three of them at the same time. And baby, when it is, let me just tell you, get out the way. The other area that's important to me is my life's ministry. You see, each one of us, this is my belief, each one of us, in this planet, on this planet, we were born with the ministry of what we can do to help others succeed. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to tap into that in my life early on. And that would be also content for a future episode of how do you identify your life's ministry and how to tap into that. And so my life's ministry is to help women evolve into living life from the highest version of themselves. And that's whatever you feel like your highest version is. But my ministry is to help women to evolve, in their life. And that could be through coaching, speaking, training. There are different facets to me, but what I'm bringing, to, I guess you can say, what I'm bringing to the structure, the strategy, the methodology, of helping women to evolve will be different, at different periods in different moments, along, in our relationship together through this podcast. And I will always tie this, whatever show we're talking about, whatever content I'm sharing with you, I'm always going to tie it back into my life's ministry of helping women to evolve. The third thing that's really important to me is my business mission. So not only am I doing what I'm doing from a place of personal and life, but I'm also doing this from a place of business. My business mission is to guide women on their journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation so they can create a life that is bold, big, and bad with no permission needed. So my business platform allows me to really create different avenues to be able to support women in their evolution. So some of the avenues I mentioned a moment ago is about coaching, speaking, and training. And each of those avenues have different prongs to them because you are a multifaceted woman. And to help you and support you in your evolution is not going to be just one way. So it's important from a business standpoint that I bring in my talents, I bring in my expertise, I bring in experiential, information to be able to help you to develop perspectives on how your evolution can unfold and to give you those tools so that you can pivot if need to, reinvent if need to, or embody, certain aspects of your life when and where you need to. So those are the three things that's important to me. So I want to ask you a question and get you to start to thinking about what's important to you. What's important to you? What would be those three areas for you? What's your personal mission? What do you know? If you know at this point, what's your life's ministry? And what's your business mission? Now, let me say this about the business mission. Again, some of you may not be entrepreneurs, and that's completely okay. Maybe you have a career mission, or maybe your mission is another type of mission. Maybe it's a volunteer mission. Maybe it's a motherhood mission. I don't know. But what I want to invite you to do is to really think about what's important to you. And this foundation helps to drive my behavior. It helps to drive the actions. It helps to drive the decisions that I make and or support the decisions that I make. And your mission may change, ladies. It may change. And anyone else, men are welcome, and listening as well. It may change, but the important question still remains is what's important to you? Now that shared with you and outlined what's important to me, what am I doing about it? What am I doing about what's important to me? So my life's journey is a culmination of all of the aspects of who I am. And as a result of being clear in my life, I now know that I'm a gateway for women. I use my platforms and my influence to help other women discover and evolve into their boldness. So I'm not sitting over here being cute, where I'm telling you and having this show just because I don't have anything else to do. Clearly, I got lots to do. What I am doing about what's important to me is to take all parts of who I am, the culmination of these life experiences and the development of these skills, and to bring them forth to be this gateway for other women. I'm going to be sharing with you through different parts of the show, sometimes in solo shows, and sometimes I'm going to have the opportunity to interview and have conversations with remarkable everyday women. But I'm going to be talking about, just what are they doing, in their life to help, that's supporting them in their evolution, but how are they helping other women, to evolve around them? I'm not here to do lip service. I'm bringing transparency, vulnerability, and compassion in a way that will inspire you and encourage you. So, just want to do a quick recap about what I've shared with you in terms of how life has set me up. So, I know who I am and shared with you who I am, where I begin, what's important to me, and what I'm doing about it. So I want you to share with me your comments, in the feed. Share with me your ahas. What's come up for you? And I'm not looking for you to be as clear. Maybe you are, but I want you to start the conversation. Start the conversation with yourself. Start the conversation in the community with other women, and start a conversation with me. And let me know if there are particular areas of anything that I've shared in this episode that you want to go deeper into. And I'm more than happy to go deep and bring that transparency, that vulnerability, and the compassion in that area. So as I wrap up this episode, I want you to tune in for the next episode around how the Boldness Coach was born. And what does it mean to be bold, big, and bad? And how do you live a life of no permission needed? So make sure that you click the subscribe button so that you can join the community of other amazing women that are going through transformation, such as yourself, right? Also, click the notification button so that every time a new episode drops, that you get notified that Vaneese is here with a new episode, something to say. And also make sure that you connect with me and other amazing women that are in this conversation on different social media channels. And that information will be listed in the show notes so that you know exactly where you can connect with me and other like-minded women. So thank you for hanging out with me today on this episode. And until we see each other next time, I want you to strive and thrive in your boldness. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of the Evolution of Bold podcast. I hope you found the conversation as inspiring and empowering as I did. It's always a pleasure to share the stories of my journey along with those of other remarkable women who have shown us what it means to live life boldly. I'd love to know what stood out to you the most. Your feedback is really important to me. So please leave a comment in the feed or on one of our social media channels. And don't forget to hit the subscribe and notification button before you go. Stay connected with us for more insights and exclusive content. Keep evolving, stay bold, and always live your truth. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for our next show. Until next time, I'm Vaneese Johnson, the Boldness Coach, cheering you on in your journey towards your level of bold.